Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So as you know, Tuesday means it's Type 2 or Standard Tuesday, and we have a super sweet beatdown list to look at today. This is Mono Green Stompy. Recently took Misui Yasuki to a top 8 finish in the infamous Small Japanese tournament, but congrats to Misui on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break down Mono Green Stompy for Standard. If you enjoyed this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Mono Green Stompy, pretty much got to look at it as a curve deck, because it's all about the beatdowns, looking to play the biggest, most powerful green creatures at pretty much every slot on the curve. So we start off on turn 1, we have two options. Attune with Ether, which isn't a beatdown plan, but it gets us a bit of energy, it gets a land out of our deck, and it helps support our Greenbelt Rampager, which is kind of a deceptive 1-drop. We can't really stick it on turn 1 because of the fact that it needs energy, or it bounces back to our hand, but even as a 2-drop, it's very powerful, because 3-4 for 2 is still very above the curve, and Attune with Ether helps make sure we have the energy to support it. We're not really an energy deck, but we do have some light energy synergies that you'll see as we go along. So starting off on turn 1, couple options. Where the deck is really overloaded with power is the 2-drop slot. So we have Longtusk Cub, another one of our energy cards, and Longtusk Cub is super high variance. If it can get in damage, it's one of the most powerful 2-drops in the format. It's very good, especially on the play, where your opponent's unlikely to have a blocker. You really put them to the test with whether or not they have a fatal push, because once you start hitting your opponent, it just grows itself so rapidly by generating energy. Also takes advantage from the other random energy sources we have. Backing up Longtusk Cub, we have Lambholt Pacifist, which can be a 4/4 if we flip it around, and in the mid game, it's still fine because we usually can get a creature with power of 4 or greater to allow it to attack. Maybe the weirdest card in the whole deck is Terrain Elemental, which is one of the cards from a Planeswalker deck, not officially in Kaladesh, instead it's in the Planeswalker deck, but a 3/2 for 2 mana is kind of above the curve, not super above the curve, so it's a little bit strange, but I guess it gives you more consistency than Lambholt Pacifist in the sense that it's always going to be able to attack. And then Heart of Kirin is just super strong. We have so many creatures that can crew it on their own. Essentially every creature in our deck can crew it, assuming that Longtusk Cub can put 1 counter on itself, so it's very easy to turn it into a 4/4 flyer and just start beating down our opponent in the air. Also lets us block opposing Heart of Kirins to kind of win that battle. Moving up the curve, to top things out, we have Prowling Separpard, which hasn't seen a ton of play in Standard, but is pretty good stats for its mana cost. 3 mana, you get 4 power, 3 toughness, which is fine, and it gives you a nice fringe benefit if you happen to run into control, and control decks aren't really at the top of the format right now, but you will run into blue-red control, blue-white control, things like that on occasion, and making all your stuff uncounterable, and having the Separpard itself be uncounterable is a nice bonus. Rhonas offers a ton of power because it's a 5/5. Almost every creature in our deck is able to turn it into a real creature, so it's almost always going to be a creature, and the ability to give our big stuff trample basically gives us a form of evasion and helps us close out the game. One of the problems with being green Stompy decks is a lot of times you just get chumped into oblivion by Thraben Inspectors and just little useless creatures, various tokens, but Rhonas takes that option off the table. And then Bristling Hydra, super big, can pump itself, give itself hexproof, so it's resilient to removal, works well with Rhonas to get in a ton of damage, so topping off the curve we have Bristling Hydra. The rest of the deck includes a couple of Planeswalkers. We have 3 Nissa Voice of Zendikar, which does a couple of things. Its main plan is to put a bunch of counters on our team to get in even more damage, but it can also just protect itself with the plants and tick up an ultimate, which is not immediately game winning, but the amount of card advantage and life gain that offers usually swings the game. And then a single Nissa Vital Force, which mostly is just a hasty 5/5 beater for 5 mana, that because we can keep turning the land into a 5/5, but it can also get back a random creature that had died over the course of the game, a Bristling Hydra or something like that in a pinch. And the ultimate gives us a ton of card advantage to help fight against more controlling and grindy decks, and we hit it in just one turn, which is actually really fast. Moving further up the list, we have a couple of Blossoming defenses. Actually, we have 4 real Blossoming defenses, and we want Blossoming defense so much, we actually have 1 Hippotra's Mark II, which is much, much worse than an actual Blossoming defense, because it doesn't pump our team, but it does give something hexproof for 1 mana, so this helps make sure our creatures aren't dying to Fatal Pushes and Grasp of Darkness and Cast Outs and all that stuff. And then Spatial Contortion gives us a bit of removal to deal with our opponent's stuff, which is something that's at a premium for mono green. So to support the Spatial Contortion, we have a few colorless lands. So Aether Hub is super nice because it's a green dual that's also a colorless land. We can spend some of our energy on it that we get from Attune with Ethers and stuff. Waste is just purely a colorless source, and then Westville Abbey is a colorless source that also can make us some tokens. I don't really see why you would ever play a Waste over a second Westville Abbey in this deck. We don't have any way to search out a basic or anything, so it seems a little weird to me that you'd play 1 Waste, but I guess it's pretty flavorful. As far as the rest of the mana base, 14 forests, that gives us a total of 20 lands, plus the 4 Attune with Ethers, and then moving through the sideboard, Ether Sphere Harvesters for blocking Heart of Kirin, Prowling Separpard, and Scrap Heap Scrounger, creatures for control matchups, stopping counter spells, coming back from the graveyard. We can get back Scrap Heap with our Aether Hub mana. Heroic Intervention, also for controlling matchups, mostly to fizzle a mass removal spell like a Fumigate, and then a bunch of random removal stuff, Clip Wings and Plummet for flyers, Spatial Contortion is more general removal, and Appetite for the Unnatural to deal with artifacts and enchantments. And that is Mono Green Stompy for Standard, and that's our instant deck tech for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.